right, y'all. Welcome back and happy Thursday. My name is Bull, and this is the Bluechip Breakdown. Appreciate you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about Joey Aguilar in a way that I haven't heard anyone else talk about. What if he is granted this extra year of college eligibility, which, for the record, I do think is going to end up happening, but he still decides to go on to the NFL draft, which I'm starting to feel more open to the thought of that actually happening. It feels like it's more probable than I had thought at first. He is going on to the NFL Combine, right? Only for 2 days. It's going to be no testing. He's still going through his rehab and all that good stuff, but he should have the opportunity to meet with different NFL scouts, coaches, and GMs. In those situations, he could wow them, and all it takes is one franchise to fall in love with Joey Aguilar and say, "Don't go back to college because we're planning on drafting you." And I think that it's probably what he would do. I mean, I can't speak for him, but if I'm in his situation as an older player, that's the move that I would make. So, based on the analytics, which the NFL goes off of very heavily, we all know that, especially for the NFL draft. How does Joey Aguilar match up versus the threshold of recently drafted NFL quarterbacks? We're going to be breaking that down today. We'll also talk about this quarterback room that y'all are currently looking at. How is it going to look, and what's the impact if Joey decides to leave or if he stays? Is the whole season lost? Either way, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for doing that. Huge shout out to all of our members on YouTube and on Patreon, because we could not and would not be doing this without y'all support. So, like I said, man, I just wanted to start it off and let y'all take a look at Tennessee's quarterback room with Joey Aguilar. He is still part of this room because he's got that TRO, so he can go to whatever practices, all team functions, and things like that. We'll see what happens here, I'm sure, within the next few days. But yeah, it's a very talented room. We talk about it all the time, but I do want to move forward and take a look at Joey Aguilar versus the threshold for recently drafted NFL quarterbacks. Now, this threshold goes back to 2021. It's every single quarterback that was drafted. And for Joey, it goes back to 2023 because that's as far back as I could go in pulling his stats. We all know that he played at JUCO for several years, so on and so forth. But either way, starting off on this left-hand side, size, age, athleticism, and macro stats. So under size and age, Joey Aguilar actually would pass the eye test whenever he goes to this combine. I think that that's the first thing that you should look at, because I'm telling you, man, these NFL teams, these franchises, they're big on that type of stuff. Like, they're big on all the measurables, right? So he's taller than, what the threshold is. He's also heavier. Feels like he should be a sturdy quarterback, and he can hold up on this level of football for sure. Just like from a physical standpoint, I think that that's what those numbers would indicate to an NFL franchise. But whenever you look at his age, he is older than quarterbacks typically are at the time of an NFL draft. So for this year, I think that the draft is at some point in April. I think it's April the 23rd. Joey's going to be close to 25 years old. His birthday is in June. I think it's June the 16th. So whenever you're looking at this quarterback class, it's not that deep, just like as far as relatively speaking. Next season's draft is supposed to be even deeper. If you're an older guy like Joey, the clock is definitely ticking. Would you take that opportunity if it's given to you? I most definitely would, like I said earlier. But at the same time, even if a team says, "Hey, you know what, we want to pick you up as an undrafted free agent, see how you fit in our scheme and all that, see if you can pick things up," Joey would maybe bet on himself in that situation as well, just because, again, he's getting older. And I think that the older that he gets, his draft stock is going to end up going down. But let's also take a look at his overall athleticism. So his max speed since 2023 is 19.6 miles per hour. That comes from 2024 with App State. We typically work with 18.7 miles per hour because that's as fast as he ran in game with Tennessee in 2025. But it's still at his best under the average max speed or, threshold for NFL drafted quarterbacks since 2021. I think that that's going to be a problem because you typically don't get faster once you get over 25. You typically would be getting slower. There are always exceptions to every single rule. That's not the point. I don't think the NFL teams are working off of exceptions necessarily, just like unless it's in a positive way. If it's in a negative way, they probably would not mess with you. Now, on down to his overall athletic percentile, that's also lower than the most recently drafted quarterbacks, just as far as the threshold goes. Now, let's talk about his macro stats. His passing yards, that's through the roof. I think that that looks good. He's played a whole lot of ball. He's been a starter, even at lower classifications. I don't think it really means too much because it's some quarterbacks that's been drafted at even lower classifications, than what Joey was playing at App State. So got to keep that in mind. But looking at his touchdown to interception ratio, what this is saying, like under threshold, that's 3.15 touchdowns to every one interception For Joey, it's 2.11 touchdowns to every one interception. He's got to do a better job of taking care of the football. It's looked a little bit better this past season in 2025 with a more quarterback friendly system at App State. It was all pro style, but either way, it's still double digits with not as many touchdowns. That's not going to look good. You know, NFL teams, as we're going deeper into these stats, they're going to be focusing on, as an older player, how much ceiling do you have left, right? And the older that you get, the closer you should be to that ceiling. So I don't know, like just based off of the left hand side of this stuff, I don't know if it will be the best decision for Joey to try to go pro. Just again, unless it's a team that is like, man, hey, we're adamant, we really want to draft you, like we're going to draft you and all that. At that point, maybe you would take that chance. But let's talk about all of his different like passing metrics individually. We've got short passes, which is from 1 to 9 yards, should be gimmies, should be layups. Then you've got medium passes from 10 to 19. I call this like the NFL range, like the veteran college player range. You should be really good, in that area. And then you've got deep passes. So that's 20 or more yards. As y'all can see, Joey Aguilar has a lot more reps in all of these different categories than what the threshold is asking for. So that could work in his favor. Like I said, it could also work against his favor just because maybe the negative numbers are more, maybe it's more solid. But start off with the short passes from 1 to 9 yards. So Joey's adjusted completion percentage, which just takes out drops, to me, this is a stronger indication of how accurate the quarterback actually is. That is lower than the threshold. Those are gimmies. It's not a positive thing for him to go onto the NFL with those types of numbers. It's not a positive thing for us at Tennessee either, because whenever people look at our schedule and they say, okay, listen, we need a more veteran quarterback. Well, why are you saying that? It's because you anticipate that they're going to be really good with just like regular operational things, right? These numbers look like kind of rookie numbers, in all honesty. So if he's coming back or if he's going pro, either way, he's going to have to work on that and just get significantly better with regular operational stuff. But also his turnover worthy play percent, that's too high. His big time throw percent, which is like a wild throw, like an NFL throw. It's hard for me to even think like, how is that going to look from 1 to 9 yards? Joy doesn't have any of them, but the NFL drafted quarterback threshold, those guys do at least have some of them, even if it's just one. So yeah, I mean, whenever you're talking about like the elite quarterbacks, they can make these types of throws over the course of their college careers. So medium passes from 10 to 19 yards. Again, man, this is like NFL kind of like best operation should be in that area. Well, really the best should be in the short passes, but you should be really good with the intermediate stuff. Also, veteran quarterbacks should be very, very good in this area. You typically have to like layer passes over linebackers' heads, so on and so forth. But Joey's numbers aren't great here either. Okay. And we'll break it down a little bit more in just a second. So as far as his adjusted completion percentage, he's good. So he's been accurate. We'll again talk about like where that's coming from. But turnover worthy plays, that's just getting higher and higher. Big time throw percent, it's just not as high as it should be. And this is where it really needs to be at its peak. You know what I'm saying? Because we're talking about not super deep outs, but more of like for the NFL, routine outs. You got to be good at that type of stuff. Slants, sometimes digs, sometimes seams, like whatever. A lot of their operation comes inside of this area. So again, it just doesn't look great for him to go on and try to be an NFL quarterback, given his current body of work. Now, with deep passes, this is where Joey is really, really good at. I think that he excels. He's better than the average, especially, I would say even with Tennessee quarterbacks in a lot of these metrics. But it's not great versus like the NFL drafted quarterbacks here recently. And some of those guys were obviously Tennessee players. We're talking about Joe Milton. We're talking about Hendon Hooker. But his adjusted completion percentage, it is way too low here. Turnover worthy plays, that's also way too high. But then big time throw, that actually looks pretty good. So the reason that I think that Joey has kind of like flourished in this area is because he's had some wide receivers that would go and win the 50-50 balls for him. We just talked about Chris Brazel not too long ago. 6'5, almost 23 miles per hour. He's very long. He's a dog. He's a one-on-one mismatch nightmare. You know what I'm saying? And a pretty good portion of Joey Aguilar's stats in 2025 came from guys like Chris Brazel. You could talk about Staley. You could talk about Matthews as well, and everybody else, right? Like they did a good job of making those plays in these big time situations down the field. But if an NFL team is trying to draft you, if they don't feel like they've got a true, hey man, it don't really matter, just throw it in my range, sort of a pass catcher on their team, then I don't know if they would want to draft a guy or even pick up a guy like Joey Aguilar. So from top to bottom, y'all can see his overall profile match percent. It's about 18 and a half points below what the threshold is for drafted quarterbacks since 2021. But again, this is not the deepest draft class. So there might be a little bit more leeway. As I said, I could potentially see it happening, but it would just really take a perfect situation. And as you're looking at these numbers, like I've tried to highlight as much as I possibly could, Tennessee's got to move more towards pro style elements. Like we did it in 2025, but we've got to add to that because it started to kind of even out. Teams started to figure us out towards the end of 2025. So we have to add to that. Now, Joey comes from App State, ran a whole lot of pro style stuff. Whenever he came here to Tennessee, it should have been in, much easier, much more friendly system than what he was used to. But he still, to me, is operating at kind of like a newer starter sort of a level. So I just think that that opens up the door for some of these other players to potentially end up winning that starting spot, even if he does come back. But let's take a deeper look at it, right? You can see Joey Aguilar obviously on your left hand side, Hendon Hooker is on your right hand side. So for Joey, it's showing you his best and worst coverages since 2023. At the bottom, it's showing you the overall numbers. So he is at his best versus quarters and versus cover two. Quarters coverage means that you have four players playing deep, and cover two means that you have two players playing deep. Now, the middle of the field is typically open. When I say open, I mean it's less players clogging that area up. So you don't have to layer the throws. It's not real true NFL throws as much. It's not even real true veteran college player throws as much. Just kind of going back to what a lot of people are thinking about with Joey versus George, Faison, or whoever else, right? Just thinking, well, if we have that veteran, they operate better within these areas. It's just not necessarily true, and we will continue to dive deeper into these numbers so that y'all can see it better. But his worst coverages were cover six, which is crazy because it's a mix of quarters coverage and cover two. One half of the field is going to be quarters, the other half is cover two. So the middle is typically going to be open based off of the way that the defense is going to play, whatever offense that they're going up against, the formation, the route concepts. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's not going to be as open as just a straight up quarters or cover two. The reason that I'm saying all that is because cover six can kind of throw you off. Again, it's just going back to the point of veteran quarterback versus a newer quarterback. You would expect that a veteran quarterback is good versus cover six just because they've seen so many different things. And that a newer one, like younger guy, not going to be as good because, well, pre-snap, this looks like it's just quarters or it looks like it's just cover two. Post-snap, now the whole picture's changed. I don't know what to do. Joey struggles with that. You know what I'm saying? And obviously cover three, the middle of the field is totally closed. But with cover six, it's not just about that middle being opened or closed. It's also about the intermediate, like outside stuff, kind of being, well, I'm not quite sure which side for me to go to. And it just goes back again to my point, y'all, that I am not sold on the fact that Joy being older, even another year inside of this system is just like the end all be all. Could it be beneficial? Yes. But what he has to work on is basic fundamental stuff. So that's kind of a positive thing. It's the same thing that Faison's got to work on and George has probably got to work on, right? So I think that that battle heading into spring camp is going to be a lot closer than maybe some people think. But either way, this is just showing you Joey Aguilar in intermediate passes, and this is from 10 to 20 yards. You can see the far right, you can see the right middle, dead in the middle, that left middle, and then that far left. So it's split up into fifths. On the far right, Joey Aguilar, he's a right-handed quarterback. We've looked at this before. He's really bad throwing to his right in this area. I think it's one of his biggest problems overall. It's not good for the NFL. It's not going to be good for us at Tennessee because once teams figure out what your tendencies are, they're going to force you to throw it to your right side because for Joey Aguilar, that's where he's the weakest at. But either way, wasn't good at Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? It was better than it was anywhere else. Talking about that far right side, but then you come to that right middle. It's actually the absolute worst, which is just crazy. It's worse than his 2024 season at App State, which was his overall worst, year from a stat standpoint. But then in the middle, we're seeing that Joey's kind of like getting back to 2023 form at Tennessee in 2025. Left middle, Joey's not great there with us at Tennessee. So I'm just highlighting that this is a consistent, ongoing problem from different systems with different teams, with all of that. Far left, Joey did a good job here at Tennessee. But let's move this thing forward and let's take it, one more step further. And let's talk about him 2023 at App State versus 2024 at App State. The stats up at the top, you're seeing that from 23 to 24, they got worse. That's the main thing that I want to highlight here. Y'all can pause it, take a screenshot, whatever, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. But now, 2024 to 2025, here in a totally different system, those numbers got significantly better. And I think that that's just kind of like a tip of the cap to Coach Halsley, Coach Heupel, his former quarterbacks. They're very quarterback friendly. It's not just for Joey, it's for everybody. The only year that they weren't super quarterback friendly was 2024, just based on their scheme. But I think that we could be fine if Joey does not come back, right? Like that's kind of what I'm trying to highlight here is that as we've made the changes to our system, the quarterbacks were just going to get better and better. And this is further highlighting that with the percent of open targets. So the biggest number right there. So for Joey, 87.8%. That's his percent of dropbacks with at least one person open, whether that's behind the line of scrimmage or down the field in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's more than any other quarterback that was a starter at the University of Tennessee. The number under that shows you how many plays they had with two or more targets that were open. And Joey is also the highest there. It's just because we've added to our system and we've made it, I think, in some ways more quarterback friendly. Now, the difference is Joey actually operated with full field reads, not on every single play. It was still some of that veer and shoot, which is pretty much all that we did from 2021 to 2024. That's part of the reason that Hendon Hooker, his numbers as far as having more than one person open, super low because he didn't need that. You know what I mean? Like it was, the offense was really just built off one person getting open. But it's easier maybe on the quarterbacks in some aspects if you pretty much know where you're going pre-snap, right? Like the coach tells you, okay, this is where we're going. But it can also be more friendly if it's like a 2024 situation where all you have is pretty much one passing option, and that one passing option is covered up. You need more options. That's what we saw in 2025. So, yes, I do believe that we will continue to see more and more people getting open in 2026, which should be more beneficial for any of our starting quarterbacks. It really doesn't matter if it's Joey or not. So that's going to bring us to like this last screen right here. Just showing you my overall grades for these players, where I think that they're strong at and where I think that maybe they're weak at. Heading into this spring battle, Joey Aguilar will not be doing very much over the course of spring because he's still going to be rehabbing. Maybe towards the tail end, he can do some things. But I do believe that the younger guys are more talented. I do. I sincerely do. I also could make the argument that they probably, especially George, I don't know a whole lot about Faison, but George should most definitely understand football at least on the same level as Joey Aguilar, if not better. Now, we can't say it for sure just because we haven't seen him in real live situations, but I do believe him coming from a football family, like he talked about in an interview that he had with Austin Price not too long ago. I think that he's going to understand this stuff, and I think that he'll be able to like layer the passes and do some of the things that maybe put a ceiling on Tennessee's offense in 2025. With Joey Aguilar, I think that we could maybe take some steps forward, but at the same time, we could totally just be terrible if Joey doesn't come back. So either way, my thoughts are this. Joey Aguilar might go to this NFL combine. Maybe he wows somebody and they want to draft him. I feel like he would be smart and wise to go on to the NFL, right? But I could also see, probability would say that he probably won't get that opportunity this year. If he comes back and has a really solid season, maybe he can increase his draft stock. It's going to have to be an outstanding year. Like, I think just incredible. But if he doesn't come back, how does the room look? If it's just George, Faison, and Ryan Staub, I think that it could be good. Like I also said, it could be terrible, but I don't feel like any of these guys are going to be able to operate at a super high level and get us to the college football playoffs without a better offensive line than we had last season, or at least, equal offensive line. I think slightly better running game, but the defense has to be significantly better. If that stuff is, on par with what it was last season, I don't know how much I would trust Joey Aguilar's ceiling to be high enough to get us to the college football playoffs. I might be more inclined, just at this point, before we really see these guys going to work side by side, that one of the younger players could take over and just like be the overall better option. But we'll see what happens, man. We still got maybe tomorrow or maybe early next week. Judge Hagerty's going to rule on this situation, and we could talk about it some more. But I wanted to try like round off all the thoughts that we've made over about like the past month or so with this quarterback room, with just this, and tell you that Tennessee should be fine either way as long as the other parts of this team are up to par. It's not, in my opinion, so much about the quarterback, and if it is more about the quarterback, Tennessee's probably in trouble either way. But please share y'all's thoughts down in the comment section, and as always, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be talking to y'all probably tomorrow. Thanks, peace. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.